this is Sabrina. Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to do the reading journal walkthrough of the next quarter, so the next 3 months, which would be April, May, and June. I will go ahead and link the previous walkthrough for January through March. So I'm really excited to kind of show you where I'm at with my reading journal, and it is very thick. I really don't know how I'm going to squeeze in 6 more months. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe my reading will slow down. You never know. But audiobooks have really changed things for me, like I've mentioned, I'm sure. All right, let's dive in. So this is where I'm at for my 2023 books. I think I'm close to 80 or something like this at the end of June. So really excited about that. This is my 6 months of favorites. I had the Inheritance Game here, a love story, and I'm kind of reading these like little by little because I'm savoring each of these love stories. I read a nonfiction in March and absolutely loved it. I'm glad my mom died. It was amazing. Also loved this audiobook, and I just loved how the narrator really brought Vera Wong's character to life. And this was also an audiobook that I really enjoyed. So right now at this point, I have 3 physical books that I read and 3 audio favorites. This is my shelf, and this whole page is full, and this page has 1 shelf full. And I mentioned, I think in the June update, that I'm not sure what I'm going to do if I finish this shelf, say in July or August. I don't know how I'll add on. I could always maybe add an insert here and then just kind of move things down. I don't know. I got to think about it, but it's definitely something I do need to think about in case this fills up. This little game board that I made is turning out really fantastic. I love how it looks and all the different colors, and it really visually shows how many books I have read and how close I am to finishing. I do want to put the 100 mark on here somewhere, so I do need to count this out again and see where 100 is. My goals are coming along really well. It's just I need more room. So next year I will definitely be making more room for my goals. And keeping track of the winners and nominees of Goodreads books has been tricky because it's not something I go back and check for each of my books. So I don't know if this was a kind of, I guess, a realistic goal because, like I said, it's hard to know which is a nominee and which is a winner. I am going to definitely be doing some graphic novel and middle grade research. I definitely read more of those towards like October. So it'd be great if I could read, at least half of, the 15, so either 8 or 7 before the end of the year. And I don't think that I will finish 10 series. I don't think that that was a realistic goal either. I probably should have put it just a little bit lower. And then 3 classics. I did one in July where the red fern grows, and it was heartbreaking and emotional and just amazing. I can see why so many people love the book. Over on my ABCs, if you've watched my other videos, you know I'm kind of picky about what letters I put here, but I am filling it in really well, and I already have the Y and the Z. So X, hopefully I'll find an X, but we shall see. I did read X's and O's, so I might just put that book there and count that as my X. Over here, I have the genres, and I am also going to go back and count this as well to make sure that I am actually being accurate. But once I get these books all glued down, I just go back through and one by one pick the main genre that it fits into. And then some of the books are what I consider like adult fiction. And so I've just been keeping track up there. So like adult fiction, I think I put When We Believed in Mermaids, and the half of it, also the Dutch House. So just books that don't fit necessarily in those categories. My Read Around the USA challenge, I'm really loving that and reading different books than I normally would have, like this nonfiction book that I really enjoyed, and this book set in Guam. And then finally trying the Dutch House, because I know many people have talked about the Dutch House, so I finally read that one. And then once I get into July, I will do the rest over here on this little flap. And then for each section, I'm kind of just putting a brown dot for which state I wound up reading the book from. Next up comes my challenges. I missed 2 on the first section, and then the next quarter I almost finished this. I think I have a book that I finished right in the beginning of July, so I'm going to go ahead and count it. I mean, it is my reading journal, right? And then I will also add in the July, August, and September challenge right here when I do a July update. The Bloom challenge, now this is probably a favorite design, how I came up with all the different flowers, but then Stephanie Howell decided to not do the challenge, which is totally fine. I could still try to aim for 6 books and like go through past challenges and see if I could write in some of my own for here. I just haven't decided, and I just haven't had time, I guess, or really thought about it. 12 books, 12 friends. I love this challenge. It has been so fun to read these books that I wouldn't normally read or think about reading. And it's just nice to be like, oh, my friend recommended that. That's so cool. So I read this nonfiction one, and I, again, need to write down who recommended it. I need to figure that out. But this was extraordinary. It was only 2 hours, and it was amazing. I finally conquered a Stephen King book, which was amazing as well. And then this one, The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, I'm saving that for October. Same thing with They Never Learn. So I think at this point I've read about half. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes, half. And I listened to this book in July. So now let's do the walkthrough. So starting off with April, and I used Syncopation Design, Let's Get Lit, her kit and die cuts, and also her stamps. I love this girl die cut and the cat up top, but my cats are usually like on top of me when I'm reading, which is hilarious. So this is when I decided to make the calendar a little bit bigger since I was reading audiobooks. I wanted to have enough room because, you know, I would be listening to a book and also reading a book. So that way I had enough room for both of them. And I may go back and highlight the physical books and the audiobooks like I did in May and June. So that is April, lots of blues and purples, and then I just carried it through here. And if you watched my process video for putting this together, it was pretty funny because I could not decide on the colors right here, and I even replaced one of the pie charts. A total of 15 books, and I also made sure to include like the number of pages from the audiobook. I believe that's the total here that I put. And then of course included the genres, and then the special categories were unexpected awesome, good reads, number, and romances. The first book that I reviewed was Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. I used Syncopation Design stamps for the thriller and suspense, and also the audio. And then I love to use Unsplash, which is a free way to get photos. I found these 2 photos from Chinatown, I believe, and then this one is a fortune cookie. It says, "Do not rush through life, pause and enjoy it." And so over here is the synopsis, and then my thoughts, and then several quotes. Next up was Things We Hide from the Light, which I absolutely loved and found to be amazing. It definitely took a little bit more time to get into this book as opposed to the first one, which was Things We Left Behind. Just the characters are just different, but I enjoyed it. And since I read this as a Kindle, I was able to highlight the quotes and then make like a little graphic. It's an option in Kindle books that I love. So I printed those out, and that way I could include the quotes there and try a different design. And of course incorporated all the different floral stamps here. Then I did another romance book called Heartless. This was the second book in the series that I told you earlier that I'm going little by little. So the first one was Flawless, and I think this is the second one, Heartless. And I loved it. I tried a different technique with my stamping. I stamped on the paper first and then used my blending brushes and then punched out shapes to do something just a little bit different, and I love how it came out. I also printed another quote, and I found this one. I think my book friend Christy Baldwin, she did this one. So love how this one came together. It's so pretty. Then we move into May, and this is where I highlighted the difference between audio and physical. And I also used the die cuts that I found on Etsy. They're like book die cuts, and I love them. They're fantastic. And I went with some reds and yellows, and I read 15 books. So went with lots of bright colors here with greens and reds and yellows, and then a little bit of brown neutral. And I made my book covers smaller so that way I could fit them all in here, because normally it's 1 inch wide by 1.5 inches tall. So I just shrunk it down just a little bit. And throughout the year, emotional has been the biggest category for my books. And this month I had mysterious as the second one, which was fun. Special categories were thrillers, which was 5. I read 3 books for my 12 Friends challenge, and I loved 4 books. So made sure to include the number of hours that I listened to books. First up is 2 books, and I used florals throughout both pages to kind of tie them together, plus the same blue ink. I listened to 7 Days in June, and it was just incredible, absolutely incredible. I loved it. And I made some flowers, and again used my blending brush to add some pink to them. And then the whole concept of the book, The Measure, was very, very intriguing. And it's basically you get a box, and in that box is a string that tells you your lifespan, and you can either choose to open it or not open it. And it just goes from there, and it explores 7 different characters' perspectives, and it was very fascinating. Practice Makes Perfect. I loved this book. It was adorable and the best, and I listened to it. It was so good. This is actually the second book in the series, and I decided to just start with this book because I knew it didn't matter if you listened to it in order or read it in order. So I did this one, and I did this one first, and it was just fantastic. So you open it up, and I have some more quotes because I knew I wanted to basically recreate the cover and use all my stamps to recreate the cover. And I had the best time making this, the best. So I have the synopsis over here, and then my thoughts. It's all about Annie, who is a small town florist in the town of Rome, Kentucky. And she wants to have a committed relationship, but it's been really hard for her. And then enter this guy, Griffin, sexy and full of tattoos, and he's willing to try out some practice dates. So it's awesome and adorable. I finished up the month with kind of 2 thriller books. I had this one that I was able to finally finish after my loan had expired, and then I wasn't able to get it back for like 6 weeks. And you guys, I only had 25% left, so I was so bummed that I ran out of time on it. but I absolutely loved it. And it's all about the JFK assassination, and Jack Epping basically is given the opportunity to stop the JFK assassination, and it just goes from there. I used some clocks to represent the time, and also some kind of old time looking paper-ish. This one, the overnight guest, I believe that was for my around the world challenge. So I read this one and I loved it. I flew through it and really enjoyed it, and it took place in the middle of winter, so I pulled in that theme. Finally, we've got June, and I honestly wanted to go with summer colors, but then I picked this girl die cut, and I'm not sure what I was thinking. Girl die cut doesn't really have a lot of summer colors, but I went with it, and I wound up with some pinks and blues, a little bit of red, and made it work. It put the physical books in blue and the audio books in pink, and read 15 again. Since I had done a flip out for March, I decided to do that for June as well. So probably every 3 months I'll do a flip out, and I had a lot of fun adding in the dragonflies because that reminds me of summer, a little pop of red, and all these different stamps are from Syncopation Designs, and they're linked in my description box. So you have the pie chart over here, and my reflective, or my emotional, was huge this month. It was huge. And then the next one was reflective, lighthearted, tense, hopeful, and then other. Special categories, I put my number to update it again, 78, 6 romances, and 1 book that was just next level wow, which was Fourth Wing, of course. And then hours listened and the number of pages. And then you flip this out, and I just carried the dragonfly stamping all the way across and added in a little unicorn stamp there. And since I had this flap, I was able to keep the books the normal size that I like, and I just love how this came together. It is beautiful. And I have a wide range of books. Again, really loved this one. I started off the month listening to this one, and it was very good. I loved the narrators. They had 2 distinct voices. This was a hyped book that I did not like. It took me a very long time to read it, but I wound up reading it, and I think I probably should have listened to it. I've heard listening to it is better. And then I also listened to A Girl Called Samson, and that was just amazing. Read this book. I should say inhaled this book because I could not get enough of it. And then Fourth Wing and Happy Place was the highly anticipated new Emily Henry book, and I found it to be just all right. So my first spread was about yours truly, and it has to do with Dr. Brianna, who's having a rough time with her divorce and her brother needing a kidney transplant. And in comes Dr. Jacob Maddox, and he's a little bit shy and he has anxiety, so he writes her a letter, and it kind of goes from there as far as their relationship, and it's just fantastic. Next up was A Girl Called Samson. I wanted to document this historical fiction book because I really, really enjoyed it, and I did a lot of stamping in different clusters, and I had the synopsis here and also some quotes. Next up was Drowning, the thriller that I really loved, and I just found a PNG of a plane and put it right in the middle. And I stamped WTF and no way, because this book, I can't even imagine. It was just heart pounding, heart racing from the first page about flight 1421 that crashes 6 minutes after takeoff into the Pacific Ocean. And then as they're trying to evacuate, passengers get stuck in the plane that sinks. Oh my goodness, it goes from there. Finally, I have Fourth Wing that I got up the video on Saturday. It took me a while to get the video up, but I got it up on Saturday, and so you guys just saw that, and it has lots of flip outs. So you have a flip up right here, and it has the Book Nuts illustration that she did, digital illustration, and then her interpretation of Xander. And then I did this little vellum piece, flip it up, and you can see my aesthetic page, and this image and this one are from Book Nuts. And like I said in that video, most of these are on Pinterest, but with no credit to who it was. But I do know these are from Book Nuts. And then you flip it out, and I have more for the synopsis and some quotes and thoughts. And so that wraps up these 3 months of documenting my books. So you can see that's 3 months. So I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing this walkthrough, and I would love a thumbs up or a subscribe if you are new to my channel. Have a wonderful day. Bye.